Om Namo Narayana. Welcome back. Today we are reading the Niralamba Upanishad. I've not read this before. I know nothing about what I'm about to read. So let's do this together. Find out together what it's about. I shall raise and answer questions covering all that must be known for liquidating the misfortunes of living beings plunged in ignorance. What is Brahman? Who is God? Who is living being? What is Prakriti? Who is the Supreme Self? Who is Brahma? Who is Vishnu? Who is Rudra? Who is Indra? Who is the god of death? Who is the sun? Who is the moon? Who are the gods? Who are the demons? Who are the evil spirits? Who are men? Who are women? Who are animals, and so forth? What is immobile? Who are the brahmanas, etc.? What is caste? What is deed? What is non-deed? What is knowledge? What is ignorance? What is pleasure? What is pain? What is heaven? What is hell? What is bondage? What is liberation? What is to be adored? Who is the disciple? Who is the sage? Who is the deluded? What is the demonic? What is austerity? Which is the supreme abode? What is to be sought after? What is to be rejected? Who is the sannyasin? Brahma is the ineffable spirit. It appears as the Mahat, the ego, the elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, the macrocosm, and as actions, knowledge, and ends. It is non-dual and free from all adjuncts. It is big with powers and is without beginning and end. It may be spoken of as pure gold, quiescent, unqualified. God is the veritable Brahman that, depending on its power, called Prakriti, creates the world and enters into them as the inner controller of Brahma, etc. He is Ishvara, as he controls the intellect and the sense organs. The living being, Jiva, is he who, through false superimposition, affirms, I am gross, due to the name and form of Brahma, Vishnu, Isana, Indra, etc. Jiva thinks, though I am one due to the differences of the causes that originate from the body, the Jivas are many. Prakriti is but the power of Brahma. It is the intellectual in nature and competent to create the variegated and marvelous world from the matrix of Brahma. The Supreme Self is Brahma, alone, being altogether different from the body. Brahman, Vishnu, Indra, the god of death, the sun, moon, the gods, demons, men, women, animals, etc., the immobile, the brahmanas, etc., are that very spirit. Neither skin nor blood nor flesh nor bone has caste. To self is caste ascribed through mere usage. I do the deeds that are done through sense organs. The deed thus done is centered in the self alone is the deed in question. The deed done with conceit as agent and enjoyer, causing birth, etc., binds. The non-deed is the obligatory and occasional action, sacrifice, holy vow, austerity, gifts, etc., done without desire for their fruit. Knowledge is the immediate realization due to the disciplining of body and sense organs, service rendered to the teacher, hearing, thinking, and meditation, that there is nothing but spirit, the essence of both subjects and objects, which is immutable among the mutables, like pots and cloths, the same in all their innermost essence. Ignorance is the illusory knowledge, like that of the snake and the rope, a Brahma that is all in all pervasive and non-dual. This illusory knowledge is associated with a plurality of cells based on the plurality of the adjuncts of bondage and liberation, that being stations in life, caste, men, women, the immobiles, mankind, lower animals, and gods. Pleasure is the blissful state that succeeds the knowledge of the essence of being, ignorance, and bliss. Dukkha and pain is the mere sankalpa, or the thinking of the objects of mundane existence, or of not-self. Heaven is the association with the holy, Association with the worldly folk who are unholy alone is hell. Bondage consists in imagining, due to the beginningless, latent impressions of nescience, I am born, etc. Bondage consists in imagining a plunge into the flux of existence with its possesses, claims on fields, gardens, houses, children, wives, brothers, mothers, and fathers. Bondage is the conceit of egoistic agency in regard to actions. Bondage is the imagination prompted by the desire for the 8 powers, anima, etc. Bondage is the imagination prompted by the yearning for adoring gods, men, etc. Bondage is the imagination leading to the practice of yoga with its 8 limbs, yama, etc. Bondage is the planning of action and duties bound up with castes and stations of life. Bondage is to imagine that Atman has qualities like doubts, fear, etc. Bondage is to plan to acquire knowledge, to perform sacrifices, vows, austerity, and make gifts. Bondage is to plan to devote oneself exclusively to moksha. Bondage is what springs exclusively from imagination. Liberation is the attenuation through discrimination between the eternal and the ephemeral, of the sense of ownership in regard to objects that generate fleeting pleasures and pains in the transmigratory life. Adorable is the teacher who leads one to Brahma, the spirit dwelling in all bodies. The disciple is Brahman indeed, that remains altogether immersed in the knowledge of the world as obliterated by the awareness of its ground. The sage is the knower of the essence of self-awareness present in all as their innermost part. The deluded is he who is sustained by the conceit of egoism as regards agency, etc. Demonic is the austerity rooted in entrenched attachment, aversion, destructive violence, hypocrisy, etc., that torments oneself by performing repetition of holy names and Agnihotra while fasting, and that is prompted by the desire to secure the power of gods like Brahma, Vishnu, Indra, and Isana. Austerity is the burning in the fire of immediate realization of the world's falsity, of the seed of imagination fashioned by the desire to secure the power of Brahman. The supreme abode is Brahman status, one of the eternal freedom, comprising being, intelligence, and bliss, beyond the qualities of the inner organ and the sense organs and the vital breaths. To be sought after is the essence of pure spirit, undetermined by space, time, and objects. To be rejected is the thought that true is the world other than one's own self that is perceived by the false sense organs and the intellect. The sannyasin is the wandering, independent ascetic who has known for certain, in indeterminate concentration, I am Brahman. He is led unto it through the experimental knowledge of the context of major texts like, there is no plurality here, all this is Brahman, that thou art, etc. After renouncing all duties, sense of possession in the ego, and taking refuge in the beloved Brahman, that ascetic is liberated. He is adorable, he is the yogin, he is the immense, he is the Brahmana. Thus ends the Nir Alamba Upanishad. 2 thoughts come to mind. One, this was kind of like a dictionary. Here's a question, here's a very, very brief answer. And these answers are a little bit convoluted. The translation, thankfully these were translated by Dr. A.G. Krishna Warrior, who did so many, but it's tough. It's tough to understand. That being said, there was one part that I thought was very interesting. So one of the questions in the beginning is, what is bondage? Wow, bondage is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, like, there's so much here on bondage. And then the rest is like one line, one line, one line, one line. Association with worldly folk who are unholy alone is hell. That's it. But bondage is huge. It's literally huge on the page. That says to me something. That of all these things, I mean, and actually, let's go back. So one of them, Brahma, Vishnu, Indra, god of death, sun, moon, gods, demons, men, women, animals, the immobile, which takes a whole chunk of questions are just all answered as our very spirit. It's like, wait, what are the difference between men and women? Well, we aren't even getting into that. They're just the very spirit. But yet bondage. You know where I'm going. You know what I'm saying without saying it. To spend so much time on that one thing makes me think, if there's anything to take away from this, that's it. If there's any question here to be asked, that's the question and that's the answer. That is the most important thing. It is not to know who are the Brahmanas, or what is deed versus non-deed. That's not going to help you. Who is Vishnu? Who is Brahma? Who is Indra? These are academic things. In religion, we have academic stuff. It's information. It's just like in Christianity, Jesus walked across the desert and barefooted. Okay. Does it mean anything? Maybe, maybe not. It may just be describing he walked barefooted versus wearing sandals. Maybe it's symbolic, maybe it's not. But essentially it's rather academic because it has nothing to do with my spiritual growth. Essentially. So this is kind of saying, hey, there's all these things there. You know, you can know the definition for them, but the thing to know is what is bondage. Because bondage is imagination, it's plan, it's this, it's that, and it's the trap. It's the thing that gives you spiritual development. This is an off-the-cuff interpretation. You may have something else that you feel. When I post this up, I do go to Wikipedia, and I like to put that link down below so all of you can research it. And that's actually the first time that I really read about what I'm reading here. I kind of like coming at it off the cuff. I know a lot of people might do a channel like this and then give you a long description of what this Upanishad is about and all these things, and we can go into it. But I feel a lot of us who take up like all 108 Upanishads, we don't sit and watch 108 videos describing every single one before we dive into it. We don't read about all 108. We just dive in, kind of like a novel. I don't know what Hemingway's For Whom the Bell Tolls was about. I don't know the background. I don't know the characters. I don't know anything. I just know it's something interesting. My girlfriend recommended it. So I read it. And that's it. And then afterwards we dissect, we go through it. It's like if you tried to go through Moby Dick by reading about Moby Dick and reading about the symbolism of Moby Dick, and then you read it. Most of us don't do that. Most of us suffer and our hair turns gray while reading this book, and then we go back and interpret it, or we interpret it as we're going along. So I choose to take the method that I feel a lot of you are taking. We're coming here, or I'm coming here to just read the text, and then you can study it on your own, because the studying could take a lifetime. Other channels are delving into the history and all that, but I feel a lot of us also, we will read, we'll read stuff, we'll look at videos that talk about the history of the Upanishads, but we actually never read the Upanishads, because they're hard to read, so we don't. So that's my approach. Thus, that was a long explanation for the way I respond to these videos, all pretty much off the cuff, first impressions. So I might be wrong, I might be right, but that's what the comment section is for. So respond back, keep the conversation going, tell me if I'm wrong, if I'm right, or whatever, doesn't matter. And let's share and let's talk about this Upanishad until the next video, and we have something new to talk about. And with that, I want to say thank you for watching. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.